Hello guys, and welcome back to TierSpec TV. Given that we've been a little bit on and off the last couple of years, I felt like it was time to give an update on my Defender, because in a way, this Defender has also been a part of the reason that we've been quite so on and off, at least from my perspective. So, let's rewind a little bit. Back in September of 2021, that feels like a long time ago now, I announced that I had taken this Defender off the road. In other words, I'd taken the number plates off of it. I could no longer drive it on public roads. Now, if you don't know, and you're a new viewer, we're very fortunate in that we have all this woodland, farmland to drive around on. So I can drive around here and still get to use it at least as like a farm vehicle, but I can't drive it on public roads. And my reasoning for doing this, making the decision to take it off the road, was down to a couple of things, although, well, really one big thing, and that was rust. So, you know, most countries have some kind of inspection that cars have to do every 2-3 years, something like that, to make sure that they are still roadworthy. In the UK, that's your MOT. In Denmark, here, we have an equivalent as well, and it takes place every 2 years. And in 2021, it was time for my Defender to have its inspection. And there was a bit of an issue, because there was quite a lot of rust on the chassis that, well, it wouldn't make it through the inspection without that being repaired. And I did get a quote to have that repaired, and the quote came to about the same cost as just buying a whole new galvanized chassis. Now, I appreciate, you know, when you buy a chassis, there's more to it than just swapping it over. There's other bits you've got to spend money on, but still, in principle, that doesn't make sense in my head. Also, the fact that I knew, you know, even if I just patched up the issues there and then, you know, 2 years down the line when it's got to go back to an inspection again, and frankly, probably even sooner than that, other issues were going to crop up relating to rust. Then on top of that as well, the annual road tax bill for this car was due at basically the same time. And here in Denmark, as I've mentioned a few times before on the channel, cars are ridiculously expensive to own, especially old diesel vehicles like this, which the government sees as evil. You know, even though building an electric car will do far more damage to the environment than me just continuing to drive this around, but that's a topic for another day. Making a lot of not very nice sounds. Okay, I'll get onto those sounds in a bit. Just have to do a slightly awkward turn, which I probably shouldn't have done, given... We'll get onto that later. Anyway, the road tax bill was due, and the road tax for this Defender, at least at the time I took it off the road, the last road tax bill for it was about 13,000 Danish kroner. Now, at the time, I will put up numbers on the screen to convert that, but at the time I remember looking up what that was for the video I did, and it was about, I think it was like 1,400 pounds, British pounds, for the sake of comparison. To continue, just for the pleasure of driving this Defender on the road and having number plates on it. So, with the cost of repairing the rust, combined with the cost of the road tax, all at the same time, it was a silly amount of money to sort of keep a crumbling, dissolving Defender going, when really that money would be better spent on taking the Defender off the road and getting it back to its prime, and then putting it back on the road so it can carry on for another several decades of use. But, you know, even so, that amount of money, the cost of repairing the rust plus the road tax, that combined, you know, it would go quite a long way, but it's still like quite far short of what you would really need to do to like properly give this Defender the TLC that it needs. And at the time, it just wasn't an amount of money that I was really prepared to put forward for ultimately what is really just a toy. I mean, I love this Defender to bits, and if I had to get rid of everything in my life because everything had gone to shit, this Defender would probably be the last possession that I would be able to get rid of. I would live in this if I had to. So it is very special to me. But like I said, at the time, I just could not justify the cost of that, and therefore, there was no point in continuing to sort of modify the vehicle. I couldn't really go anywhere with it other than just around here, and that also meant I sort of lost not the passion, but I didn't know what to do content-wise. It's a bit difficult to carry on making videos as a result. So yeah, we've been a bit on and off, and I did a video, when was it? I think at the back end of 2022, if I remember correctly, where I talked about, yes, at some point I'm going to rebuild this Defender, and I sort of did a walk around talking about all of the things that would need replacing, what I would replace them with. And then again, we went silent, because at that point I was still, do I really want to do this right now? And I've done a lot of thinking since then, and obviously I don't want this channel to die. Neither Nissa or me want to let this channel die, because we love making these videos purely from a passion perspective. It is not a full-time role at all. It is just a hobby that we really enjoy, and it just so happens a lot of you enjoy it as well. But yeah, like I said, I did a lot of thinking, and I kind of came to the conclusion that I really didn't have any choice. I know that's the most man-maths way of thinking about this, and let me explain. But I really didn't have any choice in the decision that I ultimately made. Because, like I said, never going to get rid of this Defender. It just isn't going to happen, because it's far too special to me, and I could not let go of it. But at the same time, what's the point in me having it at home, sitting in a barn, and just occasionally taking it out for a little trip around the woods, or to just do a little bit of sort of farm work or whatever. Plus all of the memories I have with this Defender. Even my dog is so attached to this Defender. Every time I get it out, he gets excited. He knows the difference between when I get this out and when I go out in my daily driver car. If I get this out, he's all sort of anxious. He wants to come out with me. He'll sit by the door. He'll whine. He recognizes this Defender. And for me, that's also something incredibly special and touching, because he associates this Defender with going out into the woods, with an adventure, with a trip somewhere. And so it adds to that nostalgia, that just the character that we all know that these Defenders have, that it is almost like, it's like a family pet. It's not a car, it's not a mode of transportation, it's part of your family. If you live out in the countryside, you live on a farm, whatever, then it's part of, it's like a sheepdog. I kind of came to the conclusion that I had no choice, because I'm not going to let this Defender sit and rot, but I'm not going to sell it. So I may as well bite the bullet and get on with it. And that's exactly what I've done. So I am very happy to announce that I have just placed an order for a new galvanized chassis and galvanized bulkhead. So I can tell you that at some point a rebuild will be happening. When exactly, I don't know when this stuff will arrive, and now I've obviously got to figure out everything else that I'm going to need, because it's going to need far more. I know I need doors, there's a lot of other bits, suspension, brakes, pretty much most things are going to need replacing. The engine, gearbox, transfer box, axles, all of that. All of the moving bits, I think, are in great shape. Mechanically, this Defender is really good. It's been looked after. We've done a lot to it. But ultimately, what needs replacing is all the structural bits. They are falling apart. The front... Oh, I'm at this corner again. I'm just doing a loop and I'm at this corner. And so, basically, the suspension on this Defender is... it's a word that I'm not going to say. Messed up. That's the PG version. It's messed up. The front right shock absorber has sort of collapsed, or at least the turret for it has, because of rust. We showed that once before.
It's rusted to the point where there isn't anything to be rusted more. Have a look at the inarch. It really isn't doing its job anymore.
So it's sort of hobbling around on the front right. There's nothing, the retainers that hold in the rear springs have just dissolved, disintegrated, whatever. So there's nothing holding in the rear springs. So if I get too much articulation on the rear, the springs will fall out. Which I found out the hard way quite recently. So I have to be really careful about how I drive this. It is a bit like, you know, someone who's missing a kneecap, but also got a really bad hip or something. It's just like limping around at the moment. I guess the plus side of that, if you can say that sounds weird, is that it, you know, and I know I'm going to rebuild it. It doesn't really matter what happens to it as long as I keep the engine and gearbox and all those bits in good shape. The chassis can just whatever. Doesn't matter. And something else I considered when I was doing my decision making was, do I go out and buy something else in the meantime while I'm making my decision, for example? So in particular, this meant one vehicle that I'm really, really interested in, and that is the latest generation of Suzuki Jimny. I think this is a vehicle that has tugged at the heartstrings of many Land Rover enthusiasts, because it is just, it's basically, really, it's the only like back to basics 4x4 in the same style as the Defender that you can really buy anymore from new. Although it is a lot smaller than a Defender. That's the only issue. They are for some people it's a bonus for sure to have such a sort of agile vehicle. But if you need like load space, it's a very small vehicle. But still very, very capable. So I did genuinely consider, and I would say almost came close to, getting a Jimny at one point, because I've never driven one, I would love to try one. And I just thought, you know, maybe I could just put the Defender to the side for a bit and I'll go and try Jimny and have some fun with that, and then I'll come back to the Defender later on. But then to me that decision didn't make any sense, because, well, the money to go and buy a Jimny would be the same amount of money really to, in fact it would be more money than is needed to, you know, do what I need to do to get this back up to health. So I was like, well, that doesn't really make sense. So I put that aside, and like, again, I'm saying I just came to the same conclusion. Like, I just need to get on with this. I need to do it, because the other thing is I really miss driving this Defender on the road. Really miss driving it on the road so much. You know, it's great. I'm in an incredibly fortunate position to have all this land to be able to drive it around on still. I don't have number plates on this Defender, and it's definitely not roadworthy, but I can still drive it around the forest here, in the fields. I still get to enjoy it and really actually use it what it was made for, which is, you know, a workhorse, a farm vehicle, and I can still use it for that stuff. But of course, you know, it does limit you a lot being able to not being able to take it on the road. You know, whether it's just in the summer when you've got nice weather, it's fun to like take the Defender to work one day. And then, you know, you also get the other end of the scale is you get snow days, which, I mean, we've actually just had a lot of snow over the past month. And it was really kind of agonizing not being able to take my Defender out, because I was like, you know, the roads were terrible. We really had a lot of snow, a lot more than we had in quite a while. And although my daily driver does have winter tires on it, even with that, it was really a challenge to get around at some points, because, well, you know, winter tires doesn't make a difference. Once ground clearance becomes an issue, then, you know, you can have whatever tires you want. You need a tall vehicle with some big tires on it. And so I was really agonizing over the fact that I couldn't drive this. It's like, you know, we all know that feeling when the snow comes and you feel smug. You do the Jeremy Clarkson smug face driving around looking down on everybody else, because you don't need to worry about the weather. You're not going to get stuck, and you might even go and save a few people along the way. And I wanted to be that person, as I have been before in the past. So it was really quite difficult not being able to get the Defender out, and it only supported my decision. I was like, yeah, I've done the right thing, because next winter I hope we get just as much snow, because I want to be able to say, yes, I will make it to work today because I'm taking the Defender, because that's just cool. We all want to be, you know, we all want that Defender weather that you can go out in. That's part of the fun of owning a vehicle like this, and I missed that moment. Fortunately, my parents were visiting for Christmas, so we did have my dad's Discovery 5 to get around, and it was brilliant. But yeah, there were some challenging conditions, and I wanted to get the Defender out as well. So, where do we go from here? I've announced that, yeah, this is really going to happen. I've actually ordered a chassis and a bulkhead. When is this going to happen? How long is it going to take? I don't know when the chassis and bulkhead will arrive. I'd imagine next month or two, probably. I don't know how long it takes, to be quite honest. Then I've got to start gathering all the other parts that I'm going to need. I've never done something like this, so I really don't know, you know, do people just gather all the parts at once and sort of try to do it in a one-er? Do you do it gradually? I guess it varies from budget to time to whatever resources you have available to you. Ideally, I would like to just sort of be as prepared. This window is all foggy, it's annoying me. I would really like to be as prepared as possible and just sort of gather as much stuff as I can. And, you know, obviously I'm not going to be like, oh, we'll do it in a weekend or something. You know, that's never going to happen. But yeah, gather as much of the stuff that I need to be able to do this as I can. I guess really the best thing to do is probably do it in stages. That makes the most sense, but I don't want it to be something that's going to take, you know, I don't want to be doing it for 12, 18 months of just like a slog. You know, if we could do it over the summer or something like that, I don't know if that's realistic. Something like that would be great. I'm guessing it's going to take a few months at least to do that. And of course, we'll be documenting the whole process as well, which I'm really looking forward to. And I will probably do a sort of remake of the video I did where I walked around the Defender and talked about what I would replace, what needs, what's broken, etc., etc. Just because now I really need to have like a proper list. I need to know what I'm going to buy and so on and so forth. And I also want your input as well. Some of you out there will have done this kind of thing before, and I really want to know, you know, okay, for this, you know, for the suspension, you should definitely go with this, or for the brakes, you should definitely go with this, and so on and so forth. I want to have that input from you and really make this Defender as good as possible and make it last, you know, for decades to come, so that I don't have to worry about rust and other issues in the future. So I really want to have your input as well. So I want to do that video where I walk around and really make a clear plan of like, these are exactly the things that I'm going to be putting on this Defender. So that will be coming at some point soon as well. And then in between, we'll have to see. There might be some gaps as we're sort of waiting for parts and stuff. But that brings me back to the Jimny, because I haven't completely ruled out the possibility of having a Jimny. Like I said, it's a vehicle I really want to try. I'm really interested in. It's been very highly regarded, I think, by people in the off-road community. So, and while this Defender is being rebuilt, which, like I said, is going to take some time, I'll still probably want something, a 4x4 utility vehicle that I can use. Almost like a workshop vehicle, you know. I want something to ferry parts around for the Defender. And be able to go off-road and do all the stuff I do now with the Defender. So I haven't completely ruled out the possibility of getting a Jimny. I mean, really, it just comes down to money. Whether I can afford it, whether it makes sense, because obviously getting the Defender back on the road as soon as possible would be the priority. And ultimately, I would, if I got a Jimny, I would just sell it again once the Defender is back up and running back on the road. But I would still love to experience the Jimny, you know, if I had one for 6 months or something. That could be cool to do, and I'd like to know if that's something that interests you guys as well. I love driving this thing on or off-road, and I need to get it back on the road because I have missed it dearly. Like I said, I had no choice. I had no choice. And that's kind of it. That's the update on my Defender. It's not going anywhere. I'm not ever going to sell it. Quite the opposite. It is going to come back stronger than ever, and I wanted to share that with you all because I know there were some questions out there about what's going on with it, what's going on with the channel, so on and so forth. I'm not going to promise when the next video is going to be. You know, I'm not going to say we're going to make a video a week or anything like that. I know we've been inconsistent, but we are back. I don't intend for this channel ever to die, so we will make videos as and when we can. If you have any input about the future of my Defender, what I should do with it, then let me know, but there'll be more videos on that topic coming anyway. So for now, I'm just going to say thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.